ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam reminds us that taqwa is the key to our success, to be aware of those things which Allah has told us to be aware of, to do the things which bring us closer to Allah, to be aware of the things which move us away from His mercy. It says in the Quran, وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا, someone who kills a believer intentionally, not by accident, not for any other reason, but with the intent to want to kill them. فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمُ, the result of that, or the punishment from that, is Jahannam, is the hellfire. خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَغَضَبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. Not only is he in Jahannam forever, it says Allah is angry with this person. He has now gotten the ghadab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ghadab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On top of that it says, وَلَعَنَهُ, that he has been cursed. وَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا, he has such a great punishment waiting for him. And the life of a mu'min, the life of a believer, the life of a human being is so valuable in Islam that we cannot condone any type of killing of innocent people. This is why the killing and murder of Ayatollah Shaheed al-Namr is a great tragedy for the Muslim Ummah. It is a tremendous tragedy for the Muslim. It's a tragedy for the world. When a scholar who is pious is murdered for his piety, for speaking a word of haqq, for speaking the truth. But the truth cannot be executed. You cannot kill the truth, because more people will speak the truth. More people will rise and speak the same words. In the Quran there's so much punishment. The curse of Allah, a great punishment for this person, that they are in Jahannam forever. It is such a terrible act. But it's not just the act of the person himself who does the killing. One of the believers was killed, and they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they said to him that there's a Muslim who's been killed. قُتِلَ, his body is in the street. And so the Prophet, along with some companions, they went to the place. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam is narrating this tradition. He says they went to the place where the person had been killed. When they got there, Rasulullah asked the people, who killed this person? And the people said, we don't know. We don't have any idea. No one knew who had killed this person. He's laying dead in the street. And Rasulullah says, Wallah, by the person who has made me a prophet, he swears by Allah that if all of the malaika and human beings take the life of a person or participate in taking the life of a Muslim and are happy and content with that, even if they themselves don't do it, but they are content with what this happens, he says to them that Allah will give all of them the punishment of Jahannam. All of the makhluqat, he says. All of these makhluqat who participate will get the punishment of Jahannam. That means that it's not just the person who takes the life, the person who coordinates, who makes that happen. This person is ma'goon. This person is also, he's sharik in this crime. He is also a partner in this crime. Yazid was not in the battlefield of Karbala. Yazid was sitting back in his castle comfortably. But Yazid is mal'oon because of his order to kill Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Because of his participation from hundreds of miles away, he still is guilty. So if the Muslimin hear or know that something happens, they should be aware of what is going on. It says that Imam Rida alayhi salam says, if a mu'min is killed in the east, then the people in the west should know and should condemn this act. So we condemn the act of the execution of Sheikh al-Namr. It's a great tragedy that has befell the Muslimin and all of humanity. Once again, for the soul of Sheikh al-Namr, I ask everyone to recite Fatiha, Masbuqa bi-Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Ali Muhammad. It says that the person who takes the life, who murders someone, that he does not die as a Muslim. The essence of what it is to of kufr is to murder someone, and you cannot be a part of Islam. You know, in Islam, everyone has haqq, everyone has rights. Even your enemy has rights over you. Even someone who you consider your worst enemy, he has rights. When we look at the beautiful words, the last words of Imam Ali, the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen, tells his children, he commands them about how to deal with Ibn al-Muljam. And he commands them that even though he's the cause of my death, you don't have a right to mutilate his body. You cannot destroy his body. You cannot go too far. You cannot go beyond the bounds. It has to be adalah even when something happens that's wrong to you. You cannot say that, well, because Ibn al-Muljam killed Amir al-Mu'mineen, so now we'll kill his family, for example. So we have to have justice in every aspect. In Islam, it talks about in Risalatul Huquq, one of the things that's interesting is it talks about the huquq or the haqq of Ahl al-Dhimma. Ahl al-Dhimma refers to mostly in an Islamic government, if there are people there who live who are not Muslim, they have certain rights. And their rights have to be respected. So imagine in a government that claims to be a Muslim government, when it does something to Muslims, then what kind of haqq is being taken away there? It says in there, it says, وَلَا تَظْلِمُهُمْ, talking about Ahl al-Dhimma. So what do you think it will say about the Muslimin? Obviously you cannot do them to those people who are living in this country. And their crime is because of what they said. One of the Marajas said a statement in his Bahth al-Kharij class. He said that the weapon, Sheikh never took weapons. He never took arms and said, let's shoot people or kill people or fight or anything violent. His weapon was his ilm. His weapon was his knowledge, he says. And he says that the Saudis beheaded Sheikh al-Namr and hung his body after beheading him. And this is exactly what the Daesh do. What is the difference? You know, we live in an age where Islam is being hijacked by some people. And we like to know, the world to know the difference between what Islam is and what are those people who are claiming to be Muslims, or claiming to represent Islam, the Islamic State, or anyone who does those type of actions. So we make a clear distinction that we don't condone these actions. We don't condone this type of execution and murder of an innocent person. And that this in itself, as the Imam just said, is a type of, in fact, a type of terrorism, which is a cool. We have three groups of people when it comes to dhulm. When it comes to oppression, there is the dhalim, the one who does the oppressing, who takes away rights of others. There is the mazloom, the one who is oppressed. He becomes the victim of oppression. But there is another group, and that is the mundhalim. The mundhalim is the person who allows himself to be oppressed. Right? When the Prophet of Allah says that no one knows how this person was killed, this means that everyone has a responsibility towards a Muslim when this happens. Otherwise, we are part of the dhulm, and we have become mundhalim. We have done a type of dhulm and oppression to ourselves. One of the ways that a person does oppression to themselves is they don't speak about the issue that happens. And when such a tragedy happens, it's the responsibility of all Muslimin and all people to raise awareness about these issues. Yes, we may become madloom. If someone takes away our rights, Sheikh Husayn became madloom, but he was never mundhalim. He never allowed, I'm going to allow them to kill me just because. I'm not going to speak the truth. He spoke the truth in spite of that. He never became mundhalim. Allah have mercy on his soul, and our condolences to his family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring the faraj of the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajalallah ta'ala farajum sharif. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of the mustadafeen, all of those who are weak, and all of those who are sick, and all of those who are being oppressed all throughout the Muslim world, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal 'asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat, wa tawassaw bil haqq, wa tawassaw bis sabr.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد والثناء لرب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. قال الله الحكيم: إنما المؤمنون إخوة فاصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. The believers, they're ikhwa, they're brothers of one another. So one of the conditions, one of the shurut of being a mu'min is that the other mu'mineen have to be your brothers. When I see the other mu'mineen, I have to recognize them as my akh, as my brother. It says, فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. These are the words also that Amir al-Mu'mineen says to his children. He reminds them that Islah al-Bayn, that this is one of the best things that a person can do. in fact, he says, أُوصِيكُمْ وَجَمِيعُ وَلَدِي وَأَهْلِي وَمَنْ بَلَغَ كِتَابِي. Whoever this reaches, he gives advice to Imam Hassan and Imam Husayn as imams. He gives advice to his children. He gives advice to man balagha kitabi, whoever until the end of time reaches and understands these words. Whoever hears these words are for them. These words are for us. What is so important that Amir al-Mu'mineen says, whoever man balagha kitabi, pay attention to what I'm saying to you. He reminds us, he enjoins us to taqwallah wa nadhma amrakum wa salah dhata bainakum. He reminds us of our taqwa. He reminds us to be organized in our affairs. A mu'min is the person who's not just making namaz, he's on time for work. A mu'min is the best employee, he's the best student. Right? In his affairs, he is organized, he has strategy, he has goals. He makes the world a better place. That is the role of a believer. It's not just something that I'm a believer just because. There are things a person has to do to earn this title. What is the biggest tragedy in the Muslim world? In the entire Muslim world are the problems and conflicts between one another. It's the greatest tragedy. It's the greatest harm. So it's saying that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he could choose any words to say as he's leaving this world. Right? He could remind us that, pray a lot. Make 1,000 rakats if you can every day. Pray every day. He could remind us, give sadaqah every day. And these are important. But there's something which is aham, something which was more important, and he reminds us about this. He says, فَإِنِّي سَمِعْتُ جَدَّكُمَا. So he hears from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, يَقُولُ صَلَاحُ ذَاتِ الْبَيْنِ أفضل من عام الصلاة والصيام. Better than all of the 100 years of prayer and fasting is if I can bring two people together. The wahda of the Muslimin is so important. It's so critical that it is better than if I spend all of the rest of my entire life only doing salah, only fasting. How much emphasis more can Amir al-Mu'mineen put on this? And we look at his life and look at the Muslim Ummah during his life, and we see how much emphasis he put on wahda and ittihad bayn al-Muslimin. And not just ittihad, he says, fixing the problems, meaning that there will be problems. Bringing them together, fixing them, he says, this is more valuable for the Muslimin today. So when we see these differences, when we see these difficulties, we have to keep this in mind because we have a goal of unity, inshallah, as a people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ra'd, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. You have to make the change yourself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. We want as an ummah to be strong. We want as an ummah our children to be excellent, to be smart, to be successful. We want as an ummah to have this. We want as an ummah to be successful economically, education, from every aspect. He is saying to us, fix yourselves. Fix yourself. And what you do starts with the self. It starts with the nafs. If each person fixes their nafs, then the group of people have fixed a bigger problem. When we look at the problems that we see in the world, sometimes we look at them on the surface, and we have to be very cognizant of looking deeper into the matters. I'll give you an example. There was a masjid that began a program every weekend, every Saturday or every Sunday. They would go and take food to the homeless. Okay? And this is not just one masjid, there's many places that do this. Right? Many masajid, many Husayniyas, they have a tradition, this was the tradition of the A'imma, that they would take food to those who are needy. And so, in many cities, there's people who are homeless, there's people who are poor, and there's people who are in need of basic things like food. So a lot of people, they like to take advantage of this and participate. So, when someone is hungry, and you come to the masjid, for example, you make them a sandwich and you give them to them, that's a good deed. And there's definitely hasanat for that. And you have helped them to eat for at least a meal. You have helped them to understand who Muslims are. There's hasanat in that. But if we want to look deeper, we have to understand the root of the problem, not just the surface of the problem. Now, how many times a week does a person eat? If an average person eats for 3 times a day, 7 times a week, that's 21 times. So when you give someone food, in this case, 1 time, then there's 20 times that they're still hungry. Right? So I have solved a little bit of the problem, but I have not solved the root of the problem. I have to understand why this person is hungry. That will solve the problem. If I could help this person not to be hungry, then I have solved the problem. That is more valuable, that is more important than just that I give a sandwich. If I'm able to help this person not be hungry. So what happens? Sometimes, many believers, when we do certain activities, even like this one, in helping in the needy, we don't think about the big picture. We don't think about the goal. Meaning that when we're helping someone to eat, we don't consider how can we help to remove hunger for this person, for this group of people. There's a systematic problem. And if you don't get to the root of the systematic problem, you will never solve the problem. There will always be another problem. There will always be another hungry person. There will always be more problems. So when we see these problems in the world, let us look and understand, why does this happen? What is the root cause of this problem? Otherwise, it will happen again. It will happen again. I always like to use the example of police brutality that's been happening so much, so many reports, so many people have gotten killed. Especially African Americans, especially African American men. It says over 1,000, just 2015. 1,000. I mean, does life have any value in this country? For 1,000 people, little kids, 12-year-olds, women, children, killed by police violence. And so many times what happens is people get very upset, so what do? They protest that incident. Then it happens again and they protest that incident. It happens again, they protest that incident. It happens in Ferguson, it happens in Baltimore, it happens here. In each incident, but it never fixes the problem. Right? It's like giving that sandwich 1 time, but we don't fix the problem. Why is this happening? Is the question that Muslims have to ask today. Why is this happening? Because if we don't get to the root of the problem, then you can be sure, you can be 100% sure that this will happen again. So when they can kill Sheikh al-Namr, if they don't see the response, then you can be sure that they will do something like this again. You can be sure that they'll feel more confident about doing it the next time. And even right now, the nephew of Sheikh al-Namr is also facing execution. And you can be sure that if there's not enough response, that they will gladly and easily do that. Kill him as well. They will execute without any problem. So we have to get to the root of these problems and not just every time it happens, we do something. For example, protest. And a protest is good. A petition is good. All of these things are ways to raise awareness. But we have to be also keeping in our mind, why is this happening? Why? And when people, especially non-Muslims, look, we have to ask them to look deeper. Why is this happening? Why is it happening? Why would a person who's a scholar and leader, why would they do that? Why would they do that to a child in prison, his nephew Ali and them, and just wait so that you can grow up so that we can behead you? Why does this happen? Why does the UN not respond? The United Nations, they have a Human Rights Council, right? Saudi Arabia is the chair. Why do they not respond? Why do they not say anything? Why do they not condemn? Having people to just ask these questions alone is very valuable for them to understand the roots, the reason behind why these things are happening. If the United Nations had any kind of true authority, then they would have at least condemned these actions, said something, spoken against it, but to be silent for so long, and the same for so much of the media, to be quiet about it. You know, I saw a poster that had a picture of Sheikh al-Zakzaki, Sheikh al-Namr, and it said, if only you had been from France, if only you had been from Paris, you get the attention you deserve, and people can know about what happens. Not that it's completely to be ignored. So someone has a responsibility to speak against those crimes, to raise awareness against those crimes. The biggest thing that we can do is to let the world know what is happening. To let the world know. You know, in marketing, they teach that about the effective ways to spread the word about something, to advertise, effective advertising. Obviously there's television, there's radio, there's these things. But it says one of the, still till today, one of the most effective ways of spreading the word is word of mouth. When one person tells the next person. Because even what you see on TV, maybe you trust it, maybe you don't. But when someone that you know and trust tells you, listen, this is what happened, then it gives you a confidence that you believe in this. So then we have that power. And we have to use that power to share as much as we can about the things that happen in the Muslim world. We cannot simply sit and complain about CNN and Fox News and what they say. We have to do what we can do in sharing the message of what is happening in the Muslim world. This means that we have to be proactive and not just reactive. This means that not wait till they kill another leader. We wait, before then we try to prevent these things from happening. You know, it's been a long time that Sheikh al-Namr has been in prison. He has been shot before. It's been some time. But we're the Muslimin, we were busy during that time, right? We were busy when they were saying we're going to execute, we're going to execute. We were busy with work, we were busy with school, we were busy with our own lives. We were so mashghool with this and that, then suddenly we see this terrible news, and we're all affected by it. Let us not wait till these things happen, let us prevent them from happening. Let's prevent them from killing Sheikh Zakzaki, prevent them from killing the nephew of Sheikh Al-Nam. We have to take steps all along the way. And the last point that I want to make is when these things happen, when a tragedy happens, we don't let that die away. When it says لا تحبسن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أموات, that they are ahya, we keep them ahya through their memory and their remembrance as well. That is one of the part of them being ahya. This means that one of the reasons why Imam Husayn is the mistaq of the shaheed, he's the perfect example of what it means to be shaheed, is because he is the living martyr. Every single year, everywhere in the world, people that remember Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. Everywhere. We never let it be forgotten about the dhulm that happened in Karbala. We never forget. So we cannot forget the other shuhada. We cannot do one protest, one event, and then we quiet. That's what they want to happen. We have to continue to raise our voice against any dhulm that we see anywhere in the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the Muslimin and the Muslim Ummah tawfiq to be united together in face of all oppression, to be united together in face of all dhulm, to stand together in awaiting awaiting the presence of the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajalullah Ta'ala Farajuhum al-Sharif, to be worthy to be of his companions, of his ansar, of his a'wan, of his supporters when he arrives and when the advent begins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all our shortcomings, our sayya'at, our mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise us with the Ahlul Bayt on Yawm al-Wurud, inshaAllah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal 'asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.